We are slaying monsters.
Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
What about raccoons?
Raccoons in our tent.
I guess.
Talk about that.
I'd like to try something that's at least tangentially connected to the episode.
Oh. Okay.
That's why tractors are at least tangentially connected to the episode.
Yeah. Well, like corn.
I don't know about corn.
Well, like we have corn outside. It'd be really hilarious if I bought a tractor just because I have 1 year of corn growing in a pot.
Especially in the pot, because there's no like you're not mowing anything anyway.
Yeah, like
you're just driving the tractor around the pot in circles.
Yeah, like Tractor Supply delivers it, whoever the fuck sells me tractors, and like they deliver it to my like suburban little like driveway, and they're like, all right, thanks boss, thanks for the tractor, and I get on it and I like drive like 2 meters to my corn pot. The fucking tractor knocks the pot over. My job here is done. I get off the tractor for a long day.
Lost another crop this year.
Exactly. No, that's how I farm it. I just knock it over, and it falls out of the dirt. And I'm like, that's good enough for me.
Good enough.
I'm glad I bought this tractor. Our neighbors think we're crazy to begin with, so this would be perfect if I showed up with a tractor in the backyard.
I think you need to go the whole thing. You need like the handkerchief around your neck, right? Like the whole 9 yards. Overalls. Yeah.
I like go over to the fence line where the neighbors are, and I like lean on it, and I like wipe the sweat from my brow, and I'm like, I lost another blue corn stalk today. Like my other the 2 corn stalks that I have right now going. It's amazing. I love it. Okay, wait. So why are we talking about tractors?
Well, what kind of tractor would you buy?
Oh, I would buy a...
what brand?
I don't know enough about brands of tractors to be able to say intelligently. So I don't know. Maybe a John Deere. Maybe a John Deere. I think those are the ones that I would ride on when I was a little kid. So maybe John Deere.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. Well, we're about to talk about John Deere tractors.
No way! I am so excited! Holy shit! This is my dream come true. Also, oh my god, we are slaying monsters. This is Matt across the table.
Yo.
I'm EJ. And we are on to part 2?
Part 2
of the Iceman
Minnesota
Cometh.
Iceman.
Oh, Minnesota Iceman.
That's it. Those are different things.
Iceman Cometh by... Who wrote that? Oh shit, I'm a bad writer.
That's Death of a Salesman. Right?
No.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Iceman Cometh is who wrote Death of a Salesman? Oh, Henry.
I'm having a panic attack. we can't have this go to air because it'll seem like I'm not a good writer.
Nope, I'm wrong. It's Eugene O'Neill.
Thank you. I knew it wasn't him. It's Eugene O'Neill. God.
What's August? What the fuck is that guy's name?
No, it wasn't August Wilson.
Who wrote Death of a Salesman?
Arthur Miller. Who also wrote The Crucible.
August Wilson was Fences.
Yes, August Wilson wrote Fences. God. Okay.
Somewhere,
well, I have shamed myself fully.
Yeah. Our acting teachers are just hanging their heads in shame.
Half the audience is like, wow, you're a terrible writer, I hate you. And then half the audience is like, I don't give a fuck, let's talk about tractors.
Who the fuck are these people?
Let's talk about tractors. I'm so excited.
Today, I'll be referencing the news segment Investment of a Lifetime from KSTP-TV St. Paul, reported by Heather Filkins, and an article on The Farm Collector entitled 1918 Experimental John Deere Tractor by Diane L. Beatler.
What would an experimental tractor do?
Well, we're going to talk about
it. Ooh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
I feel like it tries to fly a little bit,
The tractor experiment.
The tractor experiment.
It's the mad scientist who's like, I have created this tractor.
Yeah. It's like weird, okay.
From spare parts.
Yeah.
It dug up like old tractors and fused them together, Frankenstein style. So, hang on. Put tractors on the back burner for a second.
I will try.
When we last left our cryptozoologists, Ivan T. Sanderson and Benard Heuvelmans, They were embarking on a buddy road trip, traveling across 3,000 miles of the Midwest to get to Rolling Stone, Minnesota. Awaiting them is a hairy, human-looking corpse encased in a block of ice. After 2 days on the road, the cryptozoologists arrive at the ranch home of Frank Hansen, a retired U.S. Air Force captain. He'd served in Korea before retiring to become something of a showman. See, at some point before retiring, Hansen was trout fishing in the area, like the area of his home, when he spotted a rusty three-wheeled tractor just sitting in a field, essentially decaying. Okay? After inspecting it, he discovered that it was a 1918 John Deere four-cylinder, number 79, making it among the first 100 tractors ever produced by the company.
I'm getting some like Atlanta vibes here.
It does
like
have a very
it
has a very like that rural country Paperboy's farm.
Yeah,
kind
like
of
he goes and
vibe
he just finds this tractor.
This whole story that I'm about to recount to you feels very much out of like an A24 film or something like that. It's
cool. Very
very sort of esoteric and weird. So he's out trout fishing, and he comes upon the rusting hulk of this decaying tractor, right? Mm-hmm. He's intrigued by it, and so he contacts the landowner of where he was fishing, who obviously also owned the tractor. Mm-hmm. This turned out to be Morris and Irwin Tim brothers, who had bought the tractor for $5, likely with the intention of repairing it, and, just never got around to doing it, or maybe it was too expensive, they couldn't find parts. It's an old tractor, because it's a 1918 tractor. We're talking now somewhere around 1960, okay? Hansen got very excited talking to them, because he knew the real value of this machine. So he offered them $1,000 to buy the thing, and of course they took him up on it. Heuvelmans, in his book Neanderthal, and I should mention, I was corrected by one of our listeners that it is in fact Neanderthal, not Neanderthal.
Oh, that's
so.
Well.
I apologize. In Heuvelmans' book Neanderthal, he erroneously calls this tractor a 1916 John Deere, but what can I say? He wasn't exactly well versed on antique farm equipment the way Frank Hansen was. So Frank Hansen, he pays $1,000 for this tractor, and he spends the next 7 years rebuilding and restoring it, much to his wife Irene's chagrin.
You should have been restoring our marriage, sir.
I mean, maybe that. Also, I think she's just kind of like, you spent $1,000 on this thing, and you're going to waste a bunch of time doing it. I kind of get the sense that it was more of like, I need something to do to not be with Irene.
Yeah, it's like, boy, I wish she could spend that much time with our relationship that she spent on this damn tractor.
Yeah, exactly. So his intention throughout this whole process was to show the tractor at farm fairs and expos. And this probably sounds bizarre, right? But even at the time, this was probably the only operational John Deere tractor of that age. Think of it like showing a Model T Ford or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would be like really into that.
Yeah.
I love old cars and old shit
Sure.
like that. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In something of a strange historic side note, for decades, John Deere allegedly refused to acknowledge the authenticity of the tractor. Without getting too far in the weeds here, John Deere purchased the Dane Manufacturing Company in 1910. Joseph Dane was appointed vice president of Deere and Company, and in 1914, Dane started overseeing the manufacturing of tractors. This is the first time that we've had tractor manufacturing at all in history, okay?
Okay.
Now, when Dane died in 1917, Deere and Company ordered 100 of his tractors from his successor. Frank Hansen's tractor, the one he found in the field, the one that he was restoring, was one of these 100. But eventually, John Deere, the company, found that they were too expensive for most farmers to buy. And they were largely considered a commercial failure. So John Deere went back to the drawing board and bought up the Waterloo Gasoline Engine Company and started producing a different line of tractors, these called the Model Gs, in 1928. Now, for some reason, the John Deere Company refused to verify the authenticity of Hansen's tractor all throughout the time that he was restoring it. They just refused to say that these 100 were under the John Deere name. To the point where Hansen, he actually gets in sort of a feud with John Deere over this.
He's like, this is your son. They should have taken it to the Maury Povich show.
I mean, that's like, kind of what it is.
Do like a DNA test to check this tractor's... I mean, come on, man.
I don't know if it's
Antiques
because...
Roadshow, Maury Povich, I don't know.
Kind of the same thing for it, right? Like, I don't know if they didn't want to be judged because the tractors were a commercial failure as opposed to their 1928 Model Gs, or if they just didn't want to acknowledge Hansen. I don't know. But
weird.
It got so deep, this feud, that in 2002, Frank Hansen published the book My Search for the Truth, a John Deere Mystery, which sounds like the newest entry in a kid's farm fiction series.
Weird.
This is a 50-page self-published book which describes Hansen's struggle to get the John Deere Company to finally fucking acknowledge the tractor, which at this point he's calling Old 79.
This feels like some kind of thing that you would start on Nextdoor. Like,
yeah,
like
well, now
so
it would be,
petty.
right?
It almost seems very petty to me. Like you know, like, oh, my neighbors threw their brush pile on my property. What do I do besides run around like a crazy person?
Well, it's totally like nowadays it would totally be like a fucking Reddit thread somewhere.
Yeah.
That's like, come on, guys. I'm telling you, this is legitimate. Here's my Imgur album that has all the pictures of the tractor.
I'm just gonna say this controversial thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But there are bigger problems.
Oh, absolutely.
In the world.
Yeah.
Than figuring out about a tractor's authenticity.
I mean, we were in the middle of the Cold War, but you know.
But you know, I love that he spent 50 pages to discuss that. That's pretty great.
Well, you're talking years. So he got the tractor in 1960 something. We don't really know exactly when, but sometime during the early 1960s. He published this book in 2002. So you're talking about 40 years he's been lobbying John Deere, being like, "This is your tractor." They're like, "No, it isn't." Right?
Like, seriously, like fathers on Maury Povich have cared less.
Yes. Now, I am sure that Frank Hansen told his visiting cryptozoologists all about this tractor, but they were much more concerned with the Iceman. Now, Frank explained that he had purchased it legally from a merchant in Hong Kong who had himself legally acquired it from Japanese whalers who brought it in accidentally with one of their catches. So, Japanese whaling ship accidentally caught this block of ice with this frozen hairy humanoid in it, sold it legally to merchants in Hong Kong, and then he bought it from them. This is a different story than what he told Terry Cullen about the Soviet whalers hauling it in. Terry Cullen, of course, the person who contacted Ivan T. Sanderson to begin with. According to Cullen's story, Soviet whalers were the ones that caught it, and then it was confiscated by the Chinese authorities, and that's how he was able to get it. When the cryptozoologist pressed him on how much he paid for the Iceman, Hansen revealed that actually he wasn't the guy who bought it. It had been purchased by a wealthy Hollywood person of some kind who he refused to name. We'll talk more on this mysterious benefactor in a little bit. Already, you see that we're establishing similarities to P.T. Barnum and the Fiji Mermaid.
Yeah.
That we talked about from the last episode. This murky backstory that kind of shifting, embellishing, it's getting retold and retold. It fits right in with the old circus showman's narrative of like, oh, I'm buying the mermaid from the original owner, while running this whole ruse behind the scenes. Remember, there was an original owner, but it wasn't the one P.T. Barnum claimed. He sent somebody out to be the original owner and then bought it from the original owner, right?
Right.
Yeah. So in Rolling Stone, Minnesota, Sanderson and Heuvelmans finally get to take a look at this icy corpse. Hansen, initially, he's a little reluctant to let them examine it, First he says, I don't think I want the publicity, which they know is bullshit because he's been showing it at farm shows, right? Mm-hmm. He then claims that he doesn't want to know if it's real because if it's fake and he's been deceived, he doesn't want to look like a liar and he doesn't want to look like he's a deceiver to his public. Mm-hmm. But finally, after some gentle nudges, he relents and he says, okay, guys, you can do an examination of this body.
And this thing is still in ice?
Yeah.
That's a lot of, energy.
That they're expending on it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Constantly keeping this thing on ice, even back then, that's a lot of,
Essentially what
labor.
It was, and we'll talk a little bit about this, but he had it in an air-conditioned trailer, and then it's housed in what Heuvelmans calls, a sarcophagus, hooked up to a machine to keep it at temperatures, and then it's inside the air-conditioned trailer. It seems to be something like a big cooler, like a chest freezer that you would have. Hansen, he explained that the ice block that the Iceman was in was originally a lot bigger when it was hauled in by the Japanese whalers now, but they cut it down for transportation and viewing purposes. And in doing so, the ice was clear in some places, but opaque in others. So you have this whole kind of mysterious, uncanny mystery to the thing. Because you can only see parts of it. You can't see all of it.
Oh, well, that really helps the story.
Totally, right? For 3 days, Sanderson and Heuvelmans spend 11 hours a day examining this corpse. And they do so by illuminating it from below with a high-powered light with a reflector. Since Hansen supplied them with that light, I'm guessing it was a chicken brooder, but I can't confirm that. They just say they got a light from him.
How scientific can you get? I mean, how much time are you spending? The 11 hours to look through a block of ice with a chicken light? How scientific can you really get here?
Oh, well, they're taking measurements. Okay. They're studying with magnifying glasses. They're studying every single detail that they can.
Wow. Okay.
Because the thing is, Hansen says, you can't take this away. You cannot remove this from my property. This is mine.
Okay.
So this is all they can do is examine it right where it is. And therefore, they know they can't stay here forever. He's not going to let them be here forever. So they have to get as much information on record about this as they can. Because to them, this is potentially one of the greatest finds in history.
Right. I don't know if anybody can hear that, but we are currently being attacked by crows.
Yeah, it's
Do you hear that?
Yeah, it's there. I think it's fine. I'm not going to worry about it.
No, it's fine. It's just funny. I don't know what the hell they're up to.
So during the investigation, Heuvelmans quickly became concerned about the state of the specimen. He noted that the left foot corner, like the lower left corner of the ice smelled rotten. And he was worried that the preservation was going to fail and the corpse would start to decay. Now, the smell that he got might give us a clue to the true nature of the thing. Believers, of course, point to flesh, right?
Of
Decaying
course.
flesh.
Yeah.
Skeptics point to rotting rubber, assuming that the Iceman was a model, right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Any theories you have, EJ?
I don't know. Maybe it was a mix of things. Maybe it was rubber and there were some biological substances in there. Like maybe the hair was legit.
Yeah, here's my suspicion, right? Mm-hmm. I fly fish, and as part of it, I tie my own flies. And the material for these lures comes from a variety of sources: sewing thread, pipe cleaners, bird feathers, rabbit fur, all that sort of stuff. But I also use animal hair. And when I inherited my dad's fly tying materials, I got his collection of deer and cow hair, including the tips of their tails. And they stink.
They did. They stunk. I remember
gross,
that.
Right?
Yeah, I was surprised actually that it could stink.
Yeah.
It was weird.
You open the box and it smells like something died inside.
It does. It's disgusting. So yeah, that makes sense.
But the hair's well preserved.
Yes, it is.
And it's completely workable. Mm-hmm. And I assume this is actually what Heuvelmans was talking about when he described that rotten smell. That he was smelling real animal hair that was used on their model.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the examination. Heuvelmans, he shot a series of pictures with his Aschei Pentax on Ektachrome high-speed film. He used a normal focal length lens, probably a 50 millimeter, because he didn't want the distortion that would be introduced from a wide angle. Later, several of these pictures would be stitched together to form the classic image of the creature's body that we've all seen. EJ, have you seen this? Have I shown you this?
Yes.
Okay.
You have. Yep.
Awesome. As a side note, the Pentax Takumar lenses are still some of the best lenses I've ever used, and they're coated in thorium, which makes them slightly radioactive.
That's right. You do have some. You have some Russian. Oh no. Are they Russian lenses?
They're Russian.
Yeah, you have some Russian.
Russian radioactive lenses. Also German.
And German.
The German would do that too.
To be the Zeiss ones, I guess.
Yeah, Zeiss. Yeah. They used to coat them with thorium because it improved their image quality until they realized that, wow, that's radioactive.
Yeah. But you still have them.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's fine. I mean, as long as you don't hold it, like, up to your eye, it's probably fine.
Yeah, or, like, lick them or whatever. Yeah.
All right. So, the Iceman was covered in hair, except for its face, palms, and soles of the feet and genitals. The left arm was raised over its head, and the right arm cradled its belly. Heuvelmans described the hair as akin to an ape rather than a bear, which means that it was thin and spaced out rather than being, like, dense. Mm-hmm. It had an Adam's apple, it had a bulging chest, and a thin penis. The arms were very, very long, extending almost to the knees, and the hands were exceptionally large. It had a long, opposable thumb, almost like a fifth finger, and it also had an opposable toe.
Does an opposable toe mean, like, the regular toes that we have, or is there like a toe that comes out like the way that an orangutan has a toe that comes out?
Yeah, like an ape's toe.
Like you can climb with that toe.
Right. Okay. It's more like a thumb than it is a big toe. It like projects out to the side and yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it lets them climb the trees. Okay, got it.
The oversized skull showed most visibly through the ice crystals. One eyeball, the left one, hung out onto the left cheek, and the face was splattered with blood, as if it had been shot through the socket. It had a broad nose, a lipless mouth, weak teeth, and no chin.
Yeah, so there's blood on it?
Yes.
I'm no forensic scientist, but I don't know if blood would have lasted even through like a frozen situation, like getting frozen. Wouldn't you have had to be like flash frozen for that blood to stay just as like exactly as it happened?
It's interesting. I didn't read anything, anyone speculating on whether the blood would have lasted or not. The implication, although it was caught by fishers, the implication is that it was frozen and then fell into the water, essentially. So it wasn't that the Iceman fell into the water and froze there where blood might have washed off its face. Mm-hmm. But in terms of blood being preserved in ice, I don't know. I feel like you almost need to ask a forensic scientist whether that's possible. Okay,
like if there are any forensic scientists listening, please
let us
know what you think that could be. And like when the pictures were taken, were they color pictures?
Yes.
So was the blood red or was it brown?
It's dried blood. It's dark brown.
So it's
that's
like
what you would expect.
Brown,
yeah.
Dried blood.
Yeah, it's not bright red. It's not clearly fake blood.
That's something. No. Okay, cool. All right.
Yes, any forensic scientists, let us know if blood would survive the freezing process. slayingmonsterspodcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
So the entire body sat frozen in a block of ice, which in itself was enclosed in a glass display case. During the course of the examination, one of the lights that they were using ended up too close to the glass case, and the heat from the light meeting the cold glass caused it to crack. This allegedly disturbed Hansen, who exclaimed, "Good Lord, how will I be able to explain that?" Heuvelmans took this to mean that Hansen was worried about reprisal from the corpse's owner. But you could also assume that he merely meant when he took the corpse on display again, how was he going to explain the cracked glass? I mean, remember, the public who he's showing this to are already primed to be skeptical about the hairy man anyway. And I would imagine having a cracked display case to Hansen represented a similar crack in the authenticity of his story.
Interesting. Okay.
Heuvelmans spent a good deal of time talking about ice structures. In Neanderthal, he explained that natural ice would begin at the skin and freeze outward, as if, you were in the Arctic and you froze to death. Artificially created ice starts from the freezing element and turns to ice anywhere water encounters cold air. He says, the gases dissolved in the freezing water escape into the remaining liquid caught within the icy box, and they end up making bubbles within it. Have a look at an ice block or an ice cube you drop in your whiskey. They are clear and transparent on the outside, but opaque in the middle. Of course, should a foreign body be immersed in a freezer full of water, the bubbles would accumulate all over the surface of the body, and this is exactly what one observes here.
Okay.
I assume Heuvelmans was having his own glass of whiskey with ice while he wrote that particular paragraph. But he's right. The Iceman wasn't found frozen because it was covered with bubbles.
Okay.
The corpse itself had been frozen intentionally because freezing skin would expel those air bubbles and gases.
Okay. It looks like somebody froze the Iceman.
That is Heuvelmans' conclusion, yes, is that okay. It wasn't naturally frozen, it was intentionally frozen.
Okay.
Immersed in water and intentionally frozen.
Interesting.
Heuvelmans, in his book, lays out the most logical theory about the origin of the Iceman, that it's fake. But he quickly rejects this theory, using a logic that's always perplexed me. He claims that the corpse was too good to be a model, and the details were too immaculate.
Okay.
And this is a point that comes up very frequently in this kind of research, often with Sasquatches. Patterson-Gimlin film of 1967 with the Sasquatch walking through the clearing is a classic example because everybody says, "Oh, well, it's clear.
Looks so natural.
It looks so natural. It's clearly a female. Why would you put breasts on a Sasquatch costume?" And Heuvelman, he points out like the missing eyeball in this one. Why would somebody add that detail to a forgery? Why would not? I mean, that's my perspective, right? Why wouldn't you?
I mean, just look at forged dollar bills. Like they're pretty good. Right. There's a lot of careful detail on those forged dollars. I mean,
that you could go to prison for it. This, there's not necessarily such a cost associated with
screwing it up.
Yeah,
but there's a lot to gain.
So
you actually have a good reason to make it look really, really, really good.
Right.
Especially if you have like connections in Hollywood or wherever this thing might have come from.
And I think that a lot of times people underestimate artistic integrity when it comes to these sorts of things. I work in film, primarily in post-production, and I've worked with a bunch of really talented motion graphics artists, animators. These are the people who do effects like gunshots, explosions, background replacements, set extensions, all that kind of stuff. And I've seen them agonize over these minute fucking details, right? One of my all-time favorite stories about this is Jurassic Park. We've talked about this before. Because the animators had never gone this far with 3D models before, they were worried that people wouldn't accept that the 3D models were real. And so they actually added orbs underneath the dinosaur's skin that they could inflate and deflate so they could make the dinosaurs breathe.
Yeah. Because
they were worried that if the dinosaurs didn't breathe, you would just sort of see it and be like, oh, something's wrong there.
Yeah, you wouldn't know exactly what, but you'd know something was wrong.
And that's for a movie.
Yes.
That people saw on screens 20 feet away from them. Imagine if you're making a model that people are going to look at up close.
Yeah. Of course you'd make it as perfect as you possibly could.
Of course you would. Think about the details you would go into because people are going to stare at this thing.
Yeah, the whole purpose is to have people look at it. I mean, of course you're going to make it look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, taxidermy is an art, dude. Like, model making is an art. These people are artists. It's like you look at a statue of David and you say, why would anybody make that so detailed when they could just make a vaguely human-shaped statue, right? Because Michelangelo was a fucking artist.
Yeah, also because, like, maybe you love doing it.
Right.
Maybe it's, like, a real passion and a lot of fun, you know?
Totally.
Like fixing an old tractor.
Exactly like fixing an old tractor. Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't want to be in the house with your wife.
Maybe I bought myself a suburban John Deere tractor so I could get away from Matt and farm my little quarter acre back here with my single piece of corn.
Yeah, knock over your corn stalk.
Can't come in, I'm busy.
Sanderson and Heuvelmans, they don't see it that way. And so they end up dismissing the hoax line of reasoning and following a different avenue. To them, the Iceman must be genuine. And if it's genuine, it represents a species of humanoid that has never been seen before.
Exciting.
Very exciting, right? Mm-hmm. And remember that these guys, this is the dawn of cryptozoology, and these guys are on the forefront. And both of them, they've had all of this speculation. Sanderson has written a book about the Yeti, right? Heuvelmans has been writing about ocean monsters and things on the fringe and all of this stuff. But the thing that they don't have anywhere is true, definitive evidence.
Huh.
And now here they are, they're in a trailer staring at what to them is proof, irrefutable proof of what they've been talking about, what they have been researching.
And damn, aren't they primed to believe it?
Absolutely,
kind
right?
Of. Like, I'd say.
But they have a dilemma on their hands. If this is a legitimate find, it could rock the scientific world. They have to verify their findings, and they have to preserve this creature before it decays forever. And this is why they're working 11 hours a day, like taking the most minute measurements, all of it, taking pictures of everything. But they also have to get it away from Frank Hansen, part-time tractor repairman, right? They have to be able to continue their investigation under controlled circumstances. They have to have it verified by other scientists, maybe primatologists. But Frank Hansen doesn't want that. Frank Hansen wants to keep it for himself. He won't let them take it anywhere. That's why he says you can only examine it here.
Oh, man, that's shady.
Sanderson, who has been running in TV circles, right? Mm-hmm. He believed he knew enough people that they'd be able to buy the Iceman outright. While he didn't name a specific price, he did allude to Life magazine, who had offered $500,000 for a photo of the Sasquatch.
Oh, okay.
And he says, I mean, honestly, if they're offering $500,000 for a photo, they're going to offer more for a body.
What's Life magazine going to do with this thing? Are they just going to, like, store it in their newsroom in the back, like, with the photo, with, like, the poor male person?
The thing is, it's not that. It's the fact that, like, if you are the magazine that breaks the story that's like, oh, look at the new primate that we found, think of the copies you would sell. Think of the prizes you'd win.
Okay.
It's that. They want the reputation of it.
Okay.
And there were other celebrities who would be interested in this sort of thing, too. You ever heard of Tom Slick?
No, but that's a great name.
It is, right?
Yeah.
So Tom Slick, he's another cryptozoologist, and he's already made a name for himself in the Sasquatch world at this point. And it's easy to get into a Game of Thrones style, like, name salad with all these various researchers. So let's just keep it brief around our friend, Mr. Slick. Son of an oil baron, Tom Slick ran in celebrity circles, and he used his considerable inheritance to fund cryptozoological expeditions. 1950s saw him travel to Nepal, where he traveled to a mountainside monastery to inspect a claimed Yeti skull cap and hand. Monastery claimed that they had this like skull cap and this preserved hand from a Yeti that they found, right? Tom Slick, working with his actor friend Jimmy Stewart, the pair of them smuggled out a stolen finger from the hand out of Calcutta and back to the United States. The finger gets lost for a while before turning up at the Royal College of Surgeons in England, where they analyze it and find out that, want to take a guess?
It's somebody's hand.
It's a human finger. Ooh. Yeah. Jimmy Stewart has his own colorful history in the Sasquatch world. Jimmy Stewart, actor, right?
That's surprising.
So in addition to smuggling Yeti fingers, Stewart's name has been thrown around as the possible owner of the Minnesota Iceman. We have no paper trail and no evidence to back this up besides a few tenuous rumors. I think it's probably not true. Because I believe that there never was an owner other than Frank Hansen. I think it was all Frank Hansen. But we'll talk about all of that in the next episode. Darren Naish notes that the actor was reported to be a creationist. I haven't been able to confirm this, but he was an outspoken Christian with very strong faith.
Jimmy Stewart was?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Huh. The idea here essentially is that he would have wanted to invalidate evolution, and he could do so by finding evidence that contradicted it, like a half-ape man living in the wilderness.
How would that go against evolution?
It's really weird, right? Because I know, it seems like if you find what is essentially a missing link, it actually validates evolution, right? But you see this a lot with creationists, young Earth creationists in particular. They want to find things like dinosaurs, plesiosaurs. They tend to fund a lot of these cryptozoological endeavors. They want to prove that the Earth is younger than we think.
Right.
Yes. So it's logically impossible for a dinosaur to have survived over 65 million years. But if you can prove that science was wrong, then you open the door for creationism. It's not about disproving evolution, it's just proving that something is wrong in the theory.
Any theory or sense? This theory?
Evolution, specifically.
An evolutional theory, okay.
So if this Iceman is a real legitimate find, then it disproves our model, at least from a creationist perspective, it disproves our model of evolution.
Okay.
It puts a question mark in our model of evolution because there's obviously something in there we didn't factor in.
Okay. Therefore, we are deeply, deeply flawed with our theory.
That means that our calculations about the age of the Earth might be wrong.
And then it's a domino effect.
Maybe it's only a few thousand years old instead of many millions of years old.
So they just want to poke holes in the idea. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Interesting, because I feel like science well done does poke holes. So it's like... but they're coming at it with very different reasons.
They miss the point that we can just take this corpse, this Iceman, and then say, oh, this is legitimate, and then fold it into actual science and say, okay, where does this fit?
Where does it fit?
Along the evolutionary chain, as opposed to, oh my God, this invalidates everything.
Yeah, that's a very weird way of looking at things.
Yes.
Okay.
Just for the record, creationism is very quickly invalidated by studying rocks, plants, animals, ceramics, all kinds of things.
Yes.
The earliest pottery dates back to around 20,000 BCE, which is a fuckload older than the 6,000 years that creationists claim the Earth is. We have evidence of Neolithic pottery that was in use before humans even invented agriculture. Never mind the literally thousands of fossils everywhere from early hominids to dinosaurs to trilobites. The oldest fossil on record is cyanobacteria, which Berkeley reports as being, you want to take a guess? How old?
Oh, I can't do dates. I can't do years, but 200 million years.
3.5 billion years old.
Oh.
Which is
old.
way older than 6,000 years.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's making me think of that magical place we went to in Saratoga where we walked around on the old seabed.
Petrified Sea Garden.
It's the Petrified Sea Garden.
Yeah, the Petrified Sea Garden in Saratoga.
But I don't know how old it is, and I don't know what it was called.
Yeah, they're stromatolites.
From the Cretaceous? Or from the...
Oh, God, don't make me do that
I think
math.
they're older than that.
490 million years old.
God.
I don't... It doesn't say late Cambrian. Late Cambrian.
That's what... It was a C word.
Yeah, they're late Cambrian.
So that's what it is.
In Saratoga. It's really cool. Yeah, it's a really cool little thing.
So it's like a little less than 500 million years old?
Yes. And you're talking about 3 times older than that. The oldest fossils.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that's like, why would you want to think that the world is 6,000 years old when, A, it's wrong.
It's clearly wrong.
Okay, it's clearly wrong.
It's very clearly wrong.
But B, oh my God, the world is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to do this stupid shit. Like, just see how the world truly is. There's a 400 and something thousand million, year old seabed that you can visit.
What I never understood is how evolution invalidates God. And I'm still trying to understand this conceptually.
Why can't you have both?
Doesn't it just make sense that God created creatures that could evolve? It's not because they say that it's because that shows that God isn't perfect because the creatures needed to evolve.
I don't know. I think God would be perfect.
I think the fact that God created creatures that can evolve in their environment shows that God would be perfect.
Yeah, set it and forget it. You know,
set it and forget it.
That's God.
God's got other shit to do. He's off there.
God's busy doing absolutely nothing about horrible things that are going on in the world. So he's got his nails to do. He's got TLC to watch. Okay, he's a set it and forget it kind of God. Yeah. So of course he's gonna make evolution totally a thing. Yep. It's so much easier to believe that evolution is a thing and get good with the God, idea.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying I don't believe in that, but I'm just saying, like, as somebody who does believe in God, it seems so much easier if you do to buy into the evolutionary theory.
Well, and then you fix this whole problem because you're just like, well, yeah, God created that. Mm-hmm. God created those trilobites. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
So anyway, hairy ape people. Now, I suspect that the wealthy California owner of the Iceman was entirely a fabrication. The whole story, what we keep talking about here, it's all reminiscent of Barnum and his sham Fiji mermaid. Mm-hmm. And it provides Frank Hansen with both a scapegoat and an additional source of authenticity. If anything in his story turns out to be bogus, it's just the California guy. He was lying. He was covering it up, whatever, right?
Right.
If he gets an offer to sell, like Sanderson is trying to give him, he says, I don't think the California guy wants to sell. He wants to keep it for himself, blah, 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 right? It's perfect. Convenient, right?
Yeah.
The wealthy California owner, no surprise, rejects Sanderson's offer to buy the Iceman. When the cryptozoologists return to Sanderson's New Jersey farm, they discuss their options. They've been calling the specimen Bozo after the famous clown, but Heuvelmans was rightly concerned that they were under enough ridicule already just studying this thing. So they decided to call it Homo pogoides, or the Pongoid man.
What does that come from?
This is named for Pongo, the scientific name for orangutans.
Oh, okay.
Sanderson and Heuvelmans thought that this fit because the Iceman really seemed to them like an actual human rather than a new form of ape. So the pair spent their Christmas holiday writing up their findings, doing so independently of each other. They're good scientists. Heuvelman notes that they did this so not to influence each other.
Yeah.
Once complete, they discussed their next move. Heuvelmans wanted to get the scientific community involved as soon as possible. But they both worried about the difficulty of convincing the community to shell out the necessary funds to study and document the Iceman. Sanderson, he's very aware that they can't buy the specimen, and he wants to strong-arm Hansen. So he intends to go public as quickly as possible and maybe even get the police involved as a way of forcing their hand.
Whoa.
And you start to see the conflicting personalities here, right? Mm-hmm. You got Heuvelmans. He's thoughtful. He's the quiet researcher. He's looking to do things through the proper channels, through scientific deliberation. And then on the other side, you have Sanderson, who's the entertainer, who's ready to just fucking smash any obstacle that gets in his way. Principles, rigor, all of it, be damned.
Right. But then there's the other guy who actually owns it that doesn't want
Hansen, who doesn't want anything.
Hansen, he doesn't want anybody touching it, but except people to pay money to look at it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very complicated.
Yeah. You have your cryptozoologists, they've kind of tempered each other in the past, but a schism is starting to form between the two of them because they both believe that this is the most important, potentially the most important scientific discovery in history, certainly in modern time. In Neanderthal, Heuvelmans discusses his concerns with Sanderson and letting Sanderson's reputation take the forefront. He says this: I had not failed to notice that because of the rather undiscriminating interest he had shown over the past few years to everything that was fantastic and unexplained, the naturalist and author of many well-received works had gradually acquired a wretched scientific reputation. While acknowledging his originality, I had many times chided him in a friendly manner for the excessive enthusiasm with which he sometimes blindly welcomed marvelous events without verifying their authenticity. I found that very painful, for I appreciated the exceptional intelligence and skill of my old friend. But that was a fact which made our work in this delicate matter more difficult.
Yep, I can see why.
He doesn't quite trust him to take the forefront on it because he's worried that they will be ridiculed and that the scientific community won't follow behind them. And if too much time is delayed, the Iceman could disappear.
Yeah.
So Heuvelmans submitted his report to Professor André Capard of the Museum of Natural Sciences in Belgium. Concerned about Hansen's shifty attitude regarding the whole affair, Heuvelmans insisted that the museum wait until March to publish the paper. The thinking here is that he hoped to give Sanderson enough time to move the pieces on his end and secure the specimen through legal means. Okay? So they've written all this up in December. He gets his paper ready to go, and it's ready to be published in March. Meanwhile, Sanderson took a guest spot on The Tonight Show. He's there, and he does this a lot, right? But he's there and he's chatting with the singer Jack Jones. Sanderson just casually mentions, we're examining this Iceman.
Ooh.
He doesn't really go into details. Mm-hmm. Pretty clearly his way of starting to very subtly force Hansen's hand. He's like, yo, national television, we saw this thing. The last thing Sanderson wanted was for Hansen to just disappear with his icy corpse. And pulling him into the public eye is Sanderson's way of ensuring that he can't just up and vanish.
Huh. Well, he could try, but it would be...
It becomes so much harder.
It'd be harder.
Now, right?
Now people are going to ask him questions.
Exactly.
Where did it go? What are you doing with it?
Exactly. Yeah. Hansen panics.
Oh,
and he visits Sanderson in New Jersey. There, Sanderson questioned Hansen about the Iceman's conflicting origins. Where did this actually come from? Why are you so worried about letting us examine it? Mm-hmm. Remember, Terry Cullen, the reptile expert, had been told that it was found by a Soviet fishing trawler. Hansen told the cryptozoologist it was a Japanese whaling ship. Now cornered, Hansen confesses to Sanderson that he's been lying the whole time, and he explained that he didn't know where the ice block originally came from, but he had heard about it from a fellow Air Force pilot. His curiosity gets piqued, and he tracked down the specimen from a Chinese smuggler in Hong Kong. He can't pay for the specimen, so he secured financing from the wealthy California business person, and that's the story.
Okay.
This is the third version of the story that we've been told so far.
Yeah. The only thing that seems to stick is Hong Kong.
Well, it's actually the third assumed country of origin. We've had Hong Kong, Japan, and China.
Oh, I see. So Hong Kong was the originator now instead. Yeah.
This should have raised red flags with Sanderson, but Hansen blindsides him and says, no further research can be conducted on this specimen. No articles can be published on it. He refuses x-rays, which are critical to get a sense of what's going on in the ice block, and he says, all done. You cannot do it anymore.
Shady.
Right.
Shady alert.
He claims that this is too much publicity. Mm-hmm. So this, of course, pisses off Sanderson. Sanderson says, well, tough shit, my buddy's about to have his write-up published in Belgium.
Nice.
This fucking infuriates Hansen.
Oh.
But with the wheels set in motion, he's got no legal recourse. There's nothing he can do about it because it's going to be published. Now, this leaves Sanderson at another crossroads, okay? Mm-hmm. His own write-up on the Iceman is scheduled for publication in the May issue of Argosity magazine, which is a pulp magazine. Mm. This ape-human creature fits right in with Argosity's other articles. You've never heard of Argosity before?
No.
Argosy before. Okay, no. So it's a magazine. It first published Edgar Rice Burroughs, the creator of Tarzan. Mm. It made a splash with crime stories during the 50s and 40s, at a time when people were really devouring that kind of content. You're talking The Shadow, you're talking suspense, old-time radio type stuff. Mm-hmm. They're publishing those kind of pulp crime stories.
Yeah.
Cornell Woolridge. You ever heard of the writer? Okay.
Nope.
He wrote a lot of suspense stuff, and he
Okay.
was published in Argosy a lot. Okay. So, not exactly a scientific journal.
Yeah, very different from the one in Belgium.
Exactly. That's actually funded by a school.
Yep.
Despite his media presence, Sanderson wanted so desperately to be taken as a legitimate scientist. He'd spent the last decade in this kind of scientific purgatory. He'd written on mysterious animals and other things, but he lacked the proof, and his writings and lectures came off more like tall tales or wild speculation. And now, here, he has a chance to finally show the world that his theories hold water. But Heuvelmans is poised to steal that thunder with his article, which is going to be published 2 months before Sanderson's. In a respected journal, nonetheless, and with the backing of a scientific organization. Plus, Hansen just refused to sell the specimen, which left Sanderson as a guy essentially publishing an out-of-date fluff piece in a pulp magazine.
Oh, that sucks for Sanderson.
Yeah, not academia, right?
Yeah, and there's no physical
and there's
proof.
They can't prove it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So now Sanderson finds himself with his back against the wall. All he can do is double down. He calls up Hansen, and he says, Heuvelmans' paper conclusively proves that the species was human. This is not true. This isn't true. Heuvelmans' paper, in fact, concluded that it was some type of new missing link between humans and Neanderthals. But here's what this means. It means that Hansen has in his possession a human corpse, which appears to have been shot through the skull, which means that Hansen is hiding a murder victim.
That's really smart.
Yes.
Because, oh my God, you have to bring the authorities in.
Exactly.
Very smart move.
So then Sanderson calls the police
Yes.
and says the same thing.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, Heuvelmans' papers start circulating the scientific community pre-publication, and it ends up on the desk of John Napier. You ever heard of John Napier?
Nope.
Okay. John, it's fine. Doesn't matter.
Who are
I
these
should just
people?
stop asking.
No, because I'm going to know one of them.
One of them you'll know.
I knew John Deere.
There you go. Great. So John Napier gets Heuvelmans' paper. John Napier is the director of primate biology at the Smithsonian Institute. He was very renowned for his work on Homo habilis, another early humanoid. And he's also one of the scientists who studied the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
What did he conclude?
Napier didn't actually buy it. Napier believed... He believed in Sasquatch, but he didn't believe that Patterson-Gimlin showed a Sasquatch.
Okay, interesting.
He said, there's little doubt that the scientific evidence taken collectively points to a hoax of some kind. The creature shown in the film does not stand up well to functional analysis.
Oh, wow. But he believed that Sasquatch was a thing.
But he believed that Sasquatch was a thing.
That's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. The important thing about Napier, when we talk about Patterson-Gimlin and Napier, is that he gave credence to the Patterson-Gimlin film. Even though he came away and said, I don't necessarily buy it, the fact that it was on his desk, the fact that the Smithsonian Institute primatology program was reviewing it was like, okay, there's something worth investigating here.
Sometimes that's all you need for this kind of stuff. Like with the alien in Africa. God, what is that called? When the guy from Harvard came down, the psychologist.
What's that school?
Called?
The Ariel School.
Ariel School.
Yeah, the Ariel School. That was somebody from Harvard, I believe.
I believe it was a guy from Harvard who came down, and that really legitimized the whole story.
Right.
So things like that,
exactly.
definitely do that.
Napier, as we talked about, he's already fascinated with the notion of like these unknown primates, right? He takes an interest in the Iceman and what's going on here. He reaches out to Sanderson, who confirms the whole thing and tells him that the police have been notified and are on their way to get the specimen. This gets Napier really fucking excited. And he starts assembling a crack team of primatologists, like a really nerdy Ocean's 11.
Ooh, I love it. That's awesome.
Right. So he's ready. He's like, we're going to examine the corpse when we get it. This is going to be perfect. But February 20th, just 20 days before Heuvelmans' report was scheduled for publication, Sanderson gets a phone call from Hansen. And Hansen explains that this California owner, the specimen's owner, he got wind of all of this, and he's outraged.
Ooh.
And he says he stormed onto my property, and he bitched me out, and he took the corpse away.
Oh, yeah, right.
But I guess he didn't want to injure Hansen's sideshow business. So the owner left behind a rubber replica of the Iceman.
Oh my God.
And he claimed that he had made this just in case they ran into problems someday.
That's so kind of him. What foresight. What brilliant foresight.
So, sounds super far-fetched, but I guess, maybe, right?
Sanderson's like ripping his hat off and stomping on his hat.
I know.
Oh
yeah.
my God. So it's not like he let the thing thaw because it would look like a thawed thing. It would look awful.
Right.
So that means that Hansen had a second thing?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Hansen now has a different corpse, which is just a replica of the legitimate corpse, according to Hansen anyway.
So somebody made another one in quick succession.
Right.
Probably an emergency like, hey buddy in California, make this for me, maybe.
And just timeline.
Yeah.
For a situation check here.
Yeah.
We have the cryptozoologist first visiting in early December. Mm-hmm. All of the feud starts in January. Mm-hmm. And we have a new fake version of the Iceman February 20th. Which would be a very short amount of time to create it. Which I think is why Hansen says, oh no, he had this ready to go. Just in case something like this happened. Paranoid, rich California owner.
Yeah. He had he had one that was on ice and not on ice.
Could be.
Like ready. Interesting.
Could be. This is all whether you take Frank Hansen at face value and whether you believe this story at all.
Whether this guy in California even exists.
It seems more likely from an Occam's razor point of view that he just said, hey, you're going to find out that this one's fake, and the reason that it's fake is because it was swapped. That's the most likely, the simplest route to an explanation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So where we are right now, Heuvelmans' paper is about to be published. Sanderson's paper is waiting in the wings and will come out 2 months later. The Smithsonian, led by Napier, is prepping for an examination of the original Iceman that's apparently been removed and replaced with a model because the owner got pissed or possibly scared. 3 days after Heuvelmans' article hits the press, the Smithsonian reached out to Hansen directly. Reiterating that the Iceman went missing, Hansen declined any visitation or investigation from the Smithsonian Institute. This all seems very suspect to Napier, head of the primatology wing. And so, he did what anyone would do when they thought that there might be some trouble abound. And he contacted J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI. And that's where we'll pick up next time.
Whoa. So Hoover's getting involved.
Oh, yeah. Because if you think about it, you're now talking across state lines, potentially murder. At the very least, some type of shady business.
Well, yeah, but weren't the police already called? Maybe they showed up and they were like, they saw it and they were like, this is... I
think to them it was just kind of nothing. Because remember that Sanderson, he said to Hansen, we've proven that this is a human. And I'm going to call the police. And he does. And then the police roll up and they're like, well, it's not a human. It's not illegal to have a dead animal. It's illegal to have a murdered human.
Okay, I can see the police kind of just being like...
whatever.
Like, yeah, like not thinking a couple of steps beyond. Yeah. Being like, this could be a human that they've dolled up to look like an ape.
Maybe. I think it just wasn't worth the time for the police to
I'm sure it wasn't. Yeah. I'm sure they had a lot of other important things to do. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you're bringing in Hoover and
the FBI.
And the FBI.
The motherfucking FBI. Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
There you go.
I did not think the FBI would be involved in this or the police, but I guess if you're dealing with a humanoid like anytime they're digging anywhere and they find a body, you have to call the police.
Yeah, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy had a bipedal humanoid-looking thing, so of course you probably should have an investigation, right?
Right.
Yeah, you don't know what it is.
Exactly. It's like when they found Richard III under that parking lot, they probably called the police.
Yeah.
It's still a dead body.
Yeah, you can't have a body, right? You can't have a clearly murdered body because it's like the eye looked like it had been shot out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I would say that they would, so I think they must have saw it and was like, oh, this is not a human.
But now we're at the point where with the FBI getting involved, whether or not Frank Hansen goes to jail is dependent on the cryptozoologist proving that this is not a human.
Yeah, now it's getting all like the stakes are getting higher.
Wouldn't want to be in his shoes.
No, he really set himself up for some fucked up stuff.
And had he just said, okay, you can examine it and bring in your friends at the Smithsonian and all of that, he would have avoided everything.
Why would he do that though? It's probably not real. So
you can see. I don't think things would have escalated the way they did if it was legitimate. You can see things getting out of hand and Hansen running around trying to put out fires as all of this happens. And again, just to reiterate, like, it's not real. It's not real. It was a model. But, like, you can see him being like, oh, shit, that's not what I meant. Oh, shit, that's not what I meant. Oh, shit, now you're calling the cops. Now you're calling the FBI. Like, whoa. Oh, you're having something published in a scientific paper. Right. Hang on now.
This was just supposed to be fun.
Right, yeah.
And, like, me saying it was real was a fun sideshow thing.
Yes.
And now it's getting way out of hand. And
I think that he probably... We'll talk more about this in the next episode, but I think that he probably thought, oh, it'd be cool to get these scientists in and just have them say, like, wow, this is not anything I've ever seen before, and didn't realize that they would be like, yeah, we're going to publish on this.
Yeah, because I think if you can bring a scientist in and then you can say in your sideshow time, oh, was examined by real scientists.
Exactly, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Papers have been written on this.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he wanted. And it got so crazy.
I know, yeah. It's going to get crazier yet.
Oh, man. Cool.
So there you go. That is episode 2 of the Minnesota Iceman.
All right. Let's keep this topic on ice.
Oh, yeah.
Oh!
It's the perfect thing for hot summer.
Oh,
it's really hot today.
It's perfect.
That's it. I mean, so next time we will talk about the resulting investigation. We will talk about the continuing changing story from all of it and the ultimate disillusion of our cryptozoologist friendship over the whole incident.
Aw, that's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad. So that'll happen. We'll watch, like, Hansen turn into, like, Sylvester the Cat with all the plates.
Oh, yeah, the spinning plates?
Balancing all the plates, trying to keep it all up. Yeah. Yep. And then... it all comes crashing down. And then we
will talk about where the Iceman resurfaces and where it is today.
Ooh, awesome. Thanks for listening, everybody. Stay frosty out there, as they say. Stay cool. I got more. I can keep going. Wow. I don't know.
I feel like we just have to rewatch. Maybe in preparation for the next episode, we should rewatch Batman and Robin and just get all of the ice puns.
Yes. What are some of them that he said?
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age, which isn't even a pun. It's
that's so stupid.
Well, they were in a museum and he was like shooting dinosaurs with his ice cannon.
Okay. Context is everything, folks.
Yeah, yes. I guess so.
Still stupid.
It wasn't the best Batman movie.
No.
Oh, my all-time favorite pun from Batman and Robin?
Yeah.
No gun, how disarming. Which isn't a nice pun, but
that's good.
But it's still wonderful.
I like that he kind of went out of his circle of... he went out and he did that. That was good. That was good. Yeah. All right.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Stay cool. All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to Slaying Monsters. If you like the podcast and what we do, please share it with others or leave us a rating and review. For questions, suggestions, and other feedback, reach out to us, slayingmonsterspodcast@gmail.com, and stay up to date by following us on Instagram @slayingmonsterspodcast. Your support helps us grow, and we are truly grateful to have our listeners and community.